Right, you are very welcome along to this week's edition. We are very much looking forward to 5 specific big games, but all of the weekend's football. If you think we're talking pony for the next half hour, and indeed every week, I don't really care. Just so long as you click the like button, the thumbs up and the subscribe. Let's get into it. It's the football kickoff. You're welcome.
The football kickoff
with Sky. Watch every single live Premier League game on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Right, with us as ever, we've got Simon Cox and Phil. Simon, good morning to you. How are you getting on?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this weekend's football, and I'm looking forward to teasing out some of the things that we've been asking our voters to vote on. The first flash poll that we did this morning was whether or not Cristiano Ronaldo should still be at Manchester United next year, and it's an overwhelming 2-1 that he shouldn't be. I'm not sure if this is the Man United fans or if this is the fans of all the other teams, because I think the fans of all the other teams really want Ronaldo at United next season, right? We want for the soap opera, for everything that goes with it, for the drama, for when every substitution becomes a big deal. This is interesting, I would say. If you're a Man United fan, maybe you don't want that.
Yeah, it's a hard one for United because obviously they have, or United fans, they have the memories that Cristiano Ronaldo provides them with. Also, he has scored plenty of goals this season. And then you think, would we actually be better off without him if you're a United fan? And there is suggestions that they would be. But then when he scores a goal, the whole argument flips then. It's like, people said Ronaldo was the problem. He's just banged one in there, and you think this guy is the problem?
He's scored the goals that's kept him in the Champions League. Simon, where do you stand on this? What's your take now that we're 5 months into this experiment?
I think if Manchester United are going to move forward, if they're going to be, if they're going to look to the future, then he doesn't need to be there next year. But the whole pantomime around him is great for everybody else, but I think for Manchester United, they need to start looking into the future, start getting into the Rashfords, the Greenwoods of this world, and making them the big stars instead of having that one superstar.
Is it going to be easy enough for them to find a replacement? Are the replacements already good enough that they have on the books, and that actually they don't really need to sign a big name striker in the summer?
I think they'll always attract the big name strikers anyway. It's just whether they're in the Champions League or Europa League, whichever one they're in. But when you've got the likes of Rashford and Greenwood on your books already, it probably takes their limelight's being taken away by Cristiano Ronaldo at the minute. So maybe they will come to the front of the queue if he leaves, and then they'll step up and be the main man themselves.
Is there part of this, Phil, as well, that the really truly great strikers of the world don't want to play with Ronaldo at the moment, knowing that he gets the attention, he gets the money, he gets the penalties? If you were to be trying to make come hither eyes at Haaland or whoever, right? Are they going to come when Ronaldo's there, or are they going to wait until he's gone?
It depends. Like in terms of the profile of the striker, the age profile. If it's a younger striker, maybe they just say, "I'll wait another season." Personally, I think they should get rid of him at the end of the season and just, like Simon said, move forward, because the problem for United in the last few seasons is they've been living in the past, and it's a great past. They have a great history. They're obviously such a successful club, but to get back to where they want to be, they can't keep going back to those days. That was what the whole Solskjaer appointment was. It was just nostalgia, and he wasn't good enough for it. And you often see it, whereas now, there is potential in that squad in terms of if a manager comes in and has a functioning team, a right formation and a definite plan, and then they have to start signing players that fit that system. Quite
a lot of ifs though, right?
There's a lot of ifs.
If they get a good manager and they buy well.
Yeah, and do you know what? I feel like there's more ifs than there was this time last year, because we used to have a conversation about Manchester United saying, yeah, maybe they're 2 or 3 players short of winning a title. They got 3 players in the summer. They're actually further away now, because Ronaldo, in my eyes, Ronaldo's one of those 3 players, and that has taken them further away. He's going to score goals, but every time he scores a goal, you can't just turn around and say, well, he's class, isn't he? Because the bigger picture is, let's reassess this at the end of the season, and maybe we'll have a bit more in terms of stats of how United were without Ronaldo and how they were with him.
Simon, in the dressing room, when a striker has a fit as he's being subbed off and is petulant, demanding and a spoiled brat, What's the response from his teammates? What do they think? Do they think that's grand because that's who he is and we kind of expect that? Or do they actually think this is ridiculous?
Well, I mean, you're talking about arguably one of the best players in the world, but I think if it was, if we're talking about somebody completely different in a different team who hasn't done anywhere near what Cristiano Ronaldo's done, I think it becomes a bit more of an issue. I think the players wouldn't stand for it anywhere near as much as possibly what they do at Manchester United. But he has to listen. He's not going to be able to play 90 minutes Saturday, Tuesday every week for Manchester United. He may well have got away with it in Italy because the pace of the game is not anywhere near as frantic as the Premier League, because he's been used to playing 90 minutes every game. Now, all of a sudden, I mean, what is he, 36? So he's possibly not going to be able to do it, regardless of the physical specimen that he is. And to get the best out of him, he's going to have to understand that, he's not going to be able to play 90 minutes. So, 60, 70 minutes here or off the bench here or there is possibly where his future lies. But he can't be. It's not good for the dressing room. It's not good for the football club. It's not good for him and his brand, if you sort of call it that he comes off and he makes a big fuss of it all. Yeah,
the other thing that happened over the last couple of weeks was this sense that a story came out. It looked like it was from his camp, where there was less awe being shown to him by the young players who were supposed to be hanging on his every word. This was one of the big factors when he signed, was that, it's a PhD education, it's a university degree for these finishers and had to behave as a professional. It's like, all right, okay, fair enough, maybe it is. Maybe by osmosis and standing beside this, they're going to see and they're going to follow. But apparently he has not experienced that, and that has become known to us, other mere mortals in the world. What did you make of that?
Yeah, well, listen, not everybody is Cristiano Ronaldo, so not everyone lives and breathes the way that he does football. So you have to understand that, people like other things and will train in a completely different way to what he does. He has to get his head around that. That because people aren't in the gym at 6 a.m. and till 6 p.m. after training, that's not because they're not dedicated to the game or they're not as passionate of the game as he is. He is the way he is because of that's what he's done for so many years.
Football is life, Phil.
Yeah, and look, we're talking about Ronaldo as if he is the main problem at United. Far from it. Definitely not. But
he's a symptom of the problem, though, isn't he?
Yeah.
That there's no actual overarching plan. We have a strategy. These are the type of players we're going to do. This is how they're going to manifest themselves. This is how we measure success. And it's like, no, we're just going to sign the next gaudy thing that comes along.
Well, he was signed because he was linked with Manchester City. And I do wonder if there was a sliding doors moment. If he had signed for City, what would he have done in this Pep Guardiola team? Because City obviously control the ball a lot better than United, so he wouldn't have to do
the pressing or the running.
Like
there'd be a bit of pressing, but
there is, because
they get the ball back so quickly.
I mean, that's it. They get the ball back so quickly. You just have to watch City. They have the ball for so much of the game. Watch the first half of the Chelsea game last week, and Chelsea couldn't get out of the half because City harassed them. And when they do get the ball, obviously they don't give it away. So he would have had some decent success in the City team, but yeah, it all happened so quickly with United, and then it becomes a big thing. And I just remember it was a Friday, and Solskjaer kind of played it down, and all of a sudden he said something where, like, actually I think this could happen, and it was done. I was walking out of here at 2:00 on a Friday afternoon going, it's about to be done, and a few hours later it was confirmed, and that didn't really look like a club that had a long-term strategy. Whereas before the start of the season, before that, you thought, okay, you can see where they're going, and they're going to try and add. They're bringing in Varane, yet they need a centre half. They're bringing in Sancho. They keep overlooking that one area.
What a success Sancho's been too.
Yeah, but again, it goes back to having a team that plays with a certain system. But it's going to be interesting this weekend, because there's one player in particular that I think a lot of United fans are going to be watching, and he ain't going to be playing for United this weekend.
Who?
Declan Rice.
Right. Thinking we need him.
a player like him.
Well, let's get into that game, because this is the football kickoff with Sky. Every Friday we're going to talk about the best 5 games on the telly. The football kickoff with Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. So that game kicks off at 3 o'clock. We'll talk Everton Villa after this. We've already started the Man United West Ham game. Declan Rice, obviously very difficult for us to talk about here with any kind of unbiased opinion, but he's becoming world class. Every time we see him, it turns out, I didn't actually know he could do that. His close control is getting better. His reading of the game is getting better. His physicality is something that you could see he had, Simon, but actually he's beginning to use it as well. So he's pretty good.
No, he is, and listen, over the last sort of 2 seasons or so, he's got a lot better. His use of the ball's got better. He's been able to lead the team in his performances. He's obviously taken over the captaincy from Mark Noble as well, which shows the sort of character of the man. I agree with Paul. I think he's probably destined to leave West Ham. Where he goes, is this a sort of kind of interview for him that he goes to Manchester United, sort of like play against him? Where could he fit in? If he does do a good job in the game, do Manchester United really look at him and say, yeah, that's the kind of guy we need in that position? But listen, you can't knock what he's done over the last sort of 2 seasons or so. He's been outstanding.
The one thing I would ask you, Phil, about this is it's 100 million or 120 million or whatever price it is, right? Is there not better value where you can get an equivalent talent and still have not pay the English player tax that they paid for Sancho? It seems, even to a German club. There's just, do you know what I mean?
And that was a cut price on Sancho from the previous summer. Yeah, no, absolutely. Somebody like. There's a couple of midfielders there where Yves Bissouma is a name that keeps coming up. Big fan of him.
It's half the price.
Absolutely. I'd say Brighton would
2 years older. He's 25
for 50 million. No bother. Wilfred Ndidi again would be a welcome addition for Manchester United's midfield. Has had a few injury problems in the last couple of seasons, but yeah, and I often wonder as well, and it's something you referred to when we opened up the Declan Rice conversation. If he was an Ireland international, what price is he going for? Like the England tax is ridiculous. I mean, United know all about it. You mentioned Sancho. Harry Maguire is the prime example. And
have they not had their fingers burned by Harry Maguire, where you put all this money in investment, you put like 2 seasons worth of transfer funds into one player, and he's well below the value that you paid for him? If they spent 20 million on Harry Maguire, everybody would go, well, they've got good value there because he plays week in, week out most weeks, and he's okay. But at that price, it's like, you need to be world class every week. And okay, you would say Rice is better than Maguire. The attributes that Rice has,
centre half than him as well.
I mean, that could well end up being a centre half. So I don't know. Would you pull the trigger on this, Simon, if you're United, and just go, right, well, that's our central midfield lockdown for the next decade?
Yeah, but for 120 million, I don't think it's definitely not value for money. Not at that price. I think, listen, you'll get 5 years, 6 years out of Declan Rice there, and he'll do really well. But I mean, I know Manchester United are linked with like John McGinn, but John McGinn will probably be 40, 50, 60 million possibly if they go for him. It's one of those where Manchester United will always potentially overspend because they are the biggest club in the world from a financial point of view. So they'll always end up overspending because they feel like they've got the power of money behind them. And clubs know that as well, which is not a great thing. You see it when
they know they're desperate.
They walk in with their pockets bulging. It's like, no, we don't have any money. We don't have money. No, absolutely, we don't have any money. And then the corporate side is bragging about how much money they have. It's like, it doesn't work.
It's the same when you end up selling a big name player, like Villa did with Grealish. All of a sudden, clubs then go, well, we'll inflate our prices by 10, 20, 30 million because we know we've got money. So Manchester United will always have money, and they'll always end up spending more because everybody knows they've got money.
Okay, so give me a prediction for this, because West Ham's form is roller coaster. It is patchy week in, week out. You don't quite know at the moment what you're going to get, which is different from last season. They were consistent. And
they're missing a few. Like, they're definitely missing like Bona at the back. And, Leeds absolutely ran riot against them, could have scored more. But Old Trafford hasn't been kind to United this season. I know they won the other night against Brentford, and Thomas Frank was spot on with what he said about the first half. Like, Brentford absolutely battered them.
It was one of the all-time great post-match interviews from like a complete underdog minnow just coming to say, we killed Man United tonight. It was a complete fluke that they beat us.
And obviously United get the win 3-1, looks a lot more comfortable, but their best form in the last couple of years has always been away from home. So how do they get that going at Old Trafford? And it's a huge game in terms of I know we'll talk about some of the other fixtures as well, but look, we know City are going to win the league. Liverpool they've one league game left without Salah and Mane, and then you would imagine they can push on and get second. Chelsea are
we'll talk about Chelsea in a minute, because that's a big game.
Yeah, the Chelsea Spurs and the United West Ham games are the two big ones in terms of who is going to occupy those.
Give me a prediction. You're stalling for time. I can see. I've just done the crappy quiz with you this morning, and I know your traits. Give me the answer.
For the weekend,
for Man United West Ham, what's going to happen?
I think it could be a draw. Maybe like a 1-1 draw.
Okay, Simon.
Yeah, I'm with Paul there. 1-1.
All right, good stuff. Everton against Villa kicks off at 12:30 on Saturday morning. This is Big Dunk up against Villa, and there's just this belief automatically that Benitez gone, team will be better, the rod of iron has disappeared, and everybody relaxes and plays good football. But is that going to happen?
I think it will. I don't know if they're going to play good football, but and Simon will be able to tell us better that when a manager that you don't particularly like is gone, what that does for the mood around the club as soon as they're gone. Big Dunk comes in. Obviously he's been there and he's taken charge of a few games as a caretaker manager, but if he's given the team talk tomorrow, you can be sure that there's going to be plenty of passion in it, and the players are going to go out there and give it everything.
I love Big Dunk. I mean,
absolutely. He seems like, obviously, like, we know what he was like as a player. You wouldn't want to mess with him,
or break into his house.
Yeah, and you see all these videos that he does where people ask him, and he's class, like, telling people to do their homework, that kind of thing. And in fairness, if Big Dunk is telling me to do something, I'm going to do it. And I think if Duncan Ferguson says to those players tomorrow, go out there and beat Villa, will you, who are managed by Steven Gerrard now, they mightn't necessarily do it, but they'll be a lot better than they were under Benitez.
I'm certainly more worried as a Villa fan. I'm more worried about this than I was last week. It's not great, but at the same time, like, the reason he got sacked is because they're no good, Simon. Surely this is one of those games where Villa just take care of business, and that's the whole point.
Well, you'd think so. If it was under Rafa, you'd be probably really guaranteed of 3 points. But
I can't believe they stripped us of Benitez versus Gerrard. Like, whatever about Big Dunk versus Gerrard, that's grand, but Rafa versus Stevie G is one of the great Premier League narratives, and I can't believe the Premier League didn't just step in and say, here, listen, don't fire him till after this game. Come on.
I think that, you sort of touched on it a little bit there, how much of a mess sort of Everton is at the minute. They sort of back Rafa with the sell of Luca Dean, the sporting director who left as well, put all their eggs in the Benitez basket, and then a few weeks later sack him. I thought it was a bit of a strange one. Listen, regardless of results, but Paul's right. You're going to get passion. Literally every Everton player will literally walk out and they'll have Everton underneath their jerseys, and they'll go out and run as hard as they can. Possibly, if you look at the stats leading up to the game or past few games of their running stats, I guarantee it will probably be a lot better, a lot higher for this one.
So the new manager bounce is a real thing for this Everton team, you think?
It will be. It will be, just because Duncan Ferguson will walk in and he'll start knocking heads together, and saying, listen, we're in a real tough situation here. Let's get our head out of our asses and start winning some games. And that will happen. I'd imagine. Listen, whether they win this game or not, I don't know. But in the next few weeks, I'm sure they'll pick up enough results. But he's had good people to learn under. You think Ancelotti's a really good manager. Benitez, obviously, prior to his time at Everton, top manager, worked at top clubs. So Duncan Ferguson's had some good managers to learn under. He would have taken a lot from him.
Well, let's see. Let's see if Villa start Coutinho. He's been around long enough now. If his fitness is good enough, maybe he starts and comes off after an hour. Maybe that's the way they ease him into this.
What did they do? Because Buendia's been playing quite well, so
They can play together.
they could play together. Do you take someone out? Do you take Danny Ings
I
out?
take Danny Ings. I'm taking Danny Ings out of the team.
I'm a big fan of Watkins, and I think he's got that much energy that he can occupy two defenders, because and especially Everton's two defenders.
Just needs a few to go in
Yeah.
off his ass. That's
Absolutely.
like, there's been a few where he hits the crossbar or goals and you're like, oh, there was a beautiful bit of skill to get you into that position, but
Luca Dean to score.
Yeah. I mean,
from a 40-yard free kick.
I'm with you guys. I think, listen, I think Coutinho definitely, I reckon he'll start. You can't sort of make the substitute appearance and score and showcase your abilities and then obviously not come on and play. But listen, Danny Ings has been signed for a lot of money. Obviously, we mentioned the Grealish money earlier, but he's just not hit the heights of what he was showing at Southampton. So he could be the one to sort of make way, and we'll wait and see, I guess.
All right, Southampton versus Manchester City is the other game that kicks off on Saturday. So 12:30 BT Sport, Everton Villa. 3 o'clock, we've already talked about this. Premier Sports, United versus West Ham. 5:30, Southampton against Manchester City. What can Southampton do here, Phil, to try and stop the juggernaut that is City and the title race? Most of us feel like it's over at this point, but if it was just a little blip, just three or four games, they dropped some points.
They drew with them earlier in the season. If they could do the same, and they've actually done all right against City, Southampton. There was I seem to remember after they got thumped 9-0 by
Liverpool,
Leicester,
Leicester.
Southampton,
Yeah,
and where their next couple of games were against City. They had a League Cup game and a league game, and you just thought, I don't think Ralph Hasenhüttl is going to get through these, but he does, and he kind of built himself up, and then they lost 9-0 to United last season, and he's at that stage now where I'm thinking, yeah, Southampton have turned the corner again, and you can see the progress they're making. James Ward-Prowse, as I said, you think back to if you had a free kick in injury time, I don't think I would want any other player at the moment in world football other than James Ward-Prowse to take that. His free kick last week was a different one. He was further out and he went for the curveball, the knuckleball, whereas usually he just curls them in. So he's got it all now, where he's unbelievable, and he gets talked about as somebody maybe that might get a move. And he's improved so much under Hasenhüttl, his conditioning. That was a thing that Hasenhüttl got onto him about. Said, you need to be physically stronger, you need to have better endurance.
Who are potential landing spots for him?
Oh, I've seen him linked with Liverpool.
Has he not just signed a long contract now?
He has, but I mean, that's just protection money, isn't it? No, I think, do you know what? I think he's very happy actually at Southampton, as long as they're...
You're not thinking that Southampton are going to get a draw here. It's hope rather than think.
Do you know what? It's the kind of game where they'll have moments, but City will do what they do and maybe win by 1 or 2 goals.
City continuously, the conversation about the false nine and the lack of an out-and-out striker, we keep talking about this, but it hasn't in any way slowed down their procession towards winning the title. Do you feel like they would benefit still from having a focal point, and that maybe in the summertime the Harry Kane talk or somebody else comes up again?
I've been on here a couple of times and speaking about that. I feel like they're still missing a number 9, but every weekend it seems to come up and they win 2-3-0, 4-0, whatever it is, and you sort of come on the following week and you go, no, still need that number 9, that focal point, but it just doesn't seem to be hurting them at all at any stage of the season. So I mean, maybe when you get sort of latter stages of the Champions League, latter stages of the FA Cup and so on, that they need that extra body in the building, but I think they'll probably go with the squad they have now until the end of the season, and then revisit whether it be the Harry Kane, the Erling Haaland, whoever else it will be in the summer.
And it's a very attractive prospect to be the person who is in the team whose job it is to score the goals that everybody else is going to lay on a play for you.
Yeah, and Haaland, obviously the link with his dad playing for City, that would be, you kind of feel that the Harry Kane thing is gone now.
Yeah, Harry Kane started to play well again.
He was very good the other night. That's the best game he's played this season.
That's kind of like just in time. I mean, I know it's very unlikely to happen right now, and Antonio Conte, I suspect, will walk out if they were to.
Self and Harry be leaving together.
Yeah. On Sunday, Palace against Liverpool kicks off at 2:00 on Sky Sports, and Chelsea versus Spurs kicks off at 4:30. This is the football kickoff with Sky. We're with you every Friday morning at 10:30. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport, and Premier Sport. Palace versus Liverpool is one of those games where there are so many good players from both teams at the African Cup of Nations that it's really about strength and depth. And as we know, Liverpool, as we saw during the week last night, Liverpool's strength and depth is superior at the moment. So, but at the same time, Simon, these are some of those results that this season Liverpool just haven't been able to easily win the match. It's been a struggle for them when they have won, and sometimes they've dropped points in these games too.
Yeah, this is always the sticky one, especially at Palace. Liverpool have got, they've not done too bad over recent years, but obviously that famous under Brendan Rodgers where they were, was it 3-0 up or 3-1, and it came back and it ended up drawing
you're all
the game.
haunted by it. Look at this.
Istanbul.
Straight away.
It was that game will forever live in the memory of Liverpool fans, especially going to Palace. At Anfield's a different story, but at Palace it's different. But I still feel Liverpool will have enough on the day to get the job done.
I do feel like there's a weird bit of projection going on here where you've all talked yourselves into that game being the most important one because it allows you to forget about the slip. It's like, no, the slip didn't really matter. It didn't. Technically, if we were to look at it, the slip didn't matter. It was the 3-0 with Palace that did for us.
No, it was the Chelsea game that did the damage. Because even if Liverpool had won that game against Palace, they were going to lose out in goal difference. That's why the whole thing of when they went 3-0 up, it was like, get the ball.
Yeah.
Going to score more goals.
Keep going.
And then Damien Delaney stuck one in, didn't he?
Good man, Damo.
But this is the game they obviously won 7-0 last season. I think it was interesting with Klopp's team selection last night, where it was clear his front three last week didn't work, of Minamino on the left, Firmino in the middle, and then Jota on the right. So last night he obviously had Jota on the left, and then Cade Gordon, the 17-year-old, played on the right. Now, it was a big ask for Cade Gordon to come in, but I think it was worth doing just to get Jota on the left, and that's where the first goal came from. Is
Cade Gordon being selected for that match last night because it's a cup semi-final second leg and there's a trip to Wembley for the winners, like it's a massive deal and he really wants to win it, or is it because he wants somehow to give somebody else a bit of game time rest for the weekend? No, I think it's purely just for that tactical reason where the front three just didn't look very comfortable. Jota is very good through the middle, he's very good on the left, but he just looked a little bit lost out on the right last week. So Minamino then being taken out last night, he actually did quite well when he came on. So it just means that what was happening was Jota not all the time was drifting in, but if Cade Gordon, like Salah does, because they're inverted wingers and come in, and it just gives Trent Alexander-Arnold more space as well, who took full advantage of it, obviously. So you expect Liverpool to win? Yeah, I think they should sneak it, and this might be their...
I said with a lot of confidence, by the way.
No, well, actually, funny enough, last night was their first win in London this season,
right?
Liverpool. And you think back to the Chelsea game, the Spurs game, the Brentford game, all games Liverpool led in and they relinquished leads. So that has just been a little bit of a trait.
Well, that's the difference between them and City this season.
Big time, yeah. Now that they look quite comfortable doing it last night, so maybe it's a turning point. And you mentioned players that are going to be missing. Ivory Coast play Egypt next week at the Africa Cup of Nations. So Palace are either getting Zaha back next week or Liverpool are getting Salah.
Too late for this fixture, obviously. But the Ayew brothers are both available to play club football again after Ghana went out. Chelsea versus Spurs kicks off at 4:30 on Sky Sports on Saturday afternoon. This is one of those slightly bubbling up situations where Chelsea need to get things right quickly here, because Thomas Tuchel now knows that he works for a club that doesn't really care what you won last season. It's what have you done for me lately. Eaten bread is soon forgotten around Chelsea way. I'm not saying he's under pressure, but he's under pressure.
Now, well, listen, there's a little bit of disconnect going between the players at the minute and the manager. I thought his team selection against City was a bit strange, leaving Jorginho out, Mount, arguably against the best team in the world right now at City. So you're right in what you're saying, that Chelsea, Roman Abramovich doesn't care. He's all about winning. So if you're not winning, you're quickly in the door and quickly out the door. It's a revolving door at Chelsea. So they need to start winning. And are they looking behind and who's coming up behind them more than they're looking at City now? And this is a game they expect to win. Although Tottenham have been doing okay of late.
How well are Spurs doing? Because a remarkable sudden death injury time win against Leicester doesn't quite paper over the fact that you're 2-1 down with 94 minutes on the clock.
No, I mean, and listen, I think had you looked at 92 minutes on the clock and been 2-1 down, you would never expect them to go on and win the game. But they ended up winning the game, and somehow they've turned a little bit of a corner. Although be it not in a exciting football kind of way. They're being that Antonio Conte methodical, sort of hard to beat team, and end up nicking results here and there.
Yeah, like this is one of those ones where you could tell me now that whatever result you want, and I could believe it and understand how it happened. So I actually have no clue what's going to happen in this game. I
think if Spurs get a draw, they'd be happy enough, and it keeps the unbeaten run in the league going for Conte, and then they have all. Is
this not the time for them to be super aggressive and try and because if they win this game, Chelsea are in crisis.
If they win this, they're 5 behind Chelsea with 4 games in hand, and no European football. I think that's going to be key for Spurs for the rest of the season.
Think of all the games that are going to come thick and fast for everybody else that have been.
They have a lot of them to play, but also in between each game, it gives Conte more and more time to work on the training ground. And from an Irish point of view, it was great to see how well Matt Doherty played when he came on in the second half at Leicester. A lot of Spurs fans saying it's the best they've seen him play.
Give me your top 4 at the end of the season.
The 4 I picked at the start, I'll stick with them.
Who are the 4?
I went City, Liverpool, Chelsea and United.
Right, so Chelsea and United are going to make it for you. Simon, are you seeing anything happening at the moment to make you think that'd be a good result for United to finish in top 4 at this stage?
Yeah,
we've got a lot of bodies to clamber over.
They're the ones I'd have the most out about.
Okay, who's going to finish in top 4, Simon?
It's a horrible question. I said West Ham last week, but only if they strengthen in the window, and they don't lose, Declan Rice or Michail Antonio for long periods of the season for injury or anything else like that. So they're in a good reign of form at the minute. I think it's just so tight. Man United 7, 35 points. Arsenal 6 in 35 with 35. Spurs 36 in 5th. I don't know. I'm going to go West Ham. I think West Ham will just stumble across the line.
All right. Okay, the football kickoff 5-a-side team that we asked you to vote for over the course of the last couple of days on Instagram, we put Pickford up against Emi Martinez. You did the right thing, folks. You picked Emi Martinez. It's Varane versus Diop. Varane. James Ward-Prowse versus De Bruyne. De Bruyne made it. Gallagher versus Henderson. Gallagher made it. That's interesting. Everybody except the Liverpool fans voting, or maybe, I don't know.
Obviously you don't want to go captain.
Lukaku versus Kane. Harry Kane's taking the captain's armband there. I think he's not having any argument with anybody, even though there may be other better candidates for it. Right, very quickly, that is pretty much all we've actually got time for on this week's show. Simon, good stuff. Thanks a million. Enjoy the football. My thanks to you as well, Phil, as well. The football kickoff with Sky every Friday morning at 10:30 across all of OTB's social channels. Sky, all the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sport. See you next Friday at 10:30.
The football kickoff
with Sky. Watch every single live Premier League game on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.